my channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about a really popular topic, which is about MBA. It's a topic that a lot of people actually ask, should I do an MBA? Would an MBA help me? Should I do an MBA versus MPP? How much is an MBA worth? Is it really going to help me? So on and so forth. So we are going to be tackling all of these questions, and most importantly, I do understand that you may come from a place where you might be stuck either financially or professionally or even intellectually, and you must be thinking that whether it's time for me to do an MBA, but of course there are challenges. So I have divided this video into the 4 parts. First and foremost, we will talk about the macroeconomics, how the macroeconomics and the microeconomics of an MBA degree is changing, right, within this pandemic and within the grander scheme of things. So that's going to be step number 1. Step number 2, we are going to be talking about the real good benefits of an MBA degree, how it can actually help you to expedite your career. Step number 3, we are going to be now then talk about the liabilities of it, that many people, especially young professionals, kind of avoid or kind of do not pay more attention as much as they should be. And step number 4, I will have a bonus lesson for all of you towards the end, so that you are not just stuck with an MBA degree, you know that there are alternatives out there. So with that, let me just directly get into the step number 1, which is about the macroeconomics. So we need to understand 2 things, right, before pandemic and now during the pandemic. Just before the pandemic, when the economics was, macroeconomic indicators were good, the GDP per capita, at least in terms of the historical trend, the entire, for example, Northern American schools, the Ivy League, they had witnessed a dearth in their application. The applications had gone down, which could be a function of A, that economically people were doing good, they were getting the financial raise, and second, and the most important thing, that the MBA degree cost has been just rising and not stopping, which is actually a very big alert that many people were seeing. However, as and when the pandemic hit, suddenly people were losing jobs, suddenly the macroeconomic indicators were down, and hence people needed upskilling, people needed learning so that they could bounce back to the market. So the schools started witnessing a surge in their applications, right? So we need to know that as a degree, it can be cyclical. You can of course game the system if you want to, wait it out when the applications are less, but of course there are no specific predictors or forecasters. At the same time, MBA as a degree, like we have been saying, for example, my MBA degree costed me somewhere around 34 to 35 lakhs easily, and I graduated in 2018 from Indian School of Business, and I did my exchange semester at Fletcher School and HBS Harvard. So the 35 lakh number was actually a ballpark number, cumulative of my foreign exchange as well. I know of friends who have graduated from HBS, Harvard Business School and Wharton, and they take almost 1.5 crore of loan. Soak that in, right? Almost 1.5 crore of loan. That's what they take to actually study in these Ivy League top institutions. So that's really big microeconomics that you need to be really aware of. So that's point number 1. Very well aware that few of you may be stuck, few of you may be thinking, hey, I'm not growing in my life. Now, step number 2 is, what are really the benefits of an MBA? How can you actually grow your career with an MBA degree? There are 5 things largely that I can think of. The first one is changing your industry and changing your sectors. So for example, before my MBA, I had done boutique consulting. I had actually done Government of India as an advisory, in an advisory role, and then I had done startup strategy role as well. My motivation of doing an MBA was that I was not able to pivot into either McKinsey, BCG, Bain without an MBA. So I had a very clear goal for actually doing an MBA, and without that I was very sure I'm not going to actually do an MBA. So the world is changing more often than probably previous scenario, previous era. Employers are open to actually hire folks who are not actually MBA. So for example, case in point, McKinsey has this business analyst program where they actually hire undergraduates, the undergraduates from top institutions like IIT, St. Stephen's, etc., and these undergraduate business analysts used to stay with McKinsey for 2 years, and then McKinsey would say that why don't you now do your master's and MBA and then come back, and then we are happy to have you. But McKinsey and company has also changed their policy. They actually do not now nudge, or they may still motivate people to do their master's or an MBA, but now the business analyst can actually stay within the firm without doing an MBA. Even within Boston Consulting Group, I knew a few undergraduates who stayed within BCG, and they were actually now on their journey, or now at a step where they could become project leaders even without an MBA. So the world is changing, and I was very clear a particular role, a particular industry, and I crafted my entire MBA journey making sure I get what I signed up for, because truth be told, it's a really freaking expensive degree. So that's point number one. If you are struggling to actually change your industry, change your sector, specifically for an industry, for a sector where they require an MBA, they require you to come from a top business school such as Wharton, Indian School of Business, INSEAD, etc., then you need this. The second one can be just the learning, the business learning. So for example, I'm a student of chemistry. I had worked in the market for 5 years, but I would say that the kind of management curriculum which is there in business school, it just allows you to start thinking more mathematically even about topics such as marketing. I use a lot of marketing analytical tools for Global Governance Initiative, of which I'm a co-founder, and nobody actually asked me to use those tools. But I'm just very well aware that those analytical tools will really bring out good insights, right? So the entire make sure that you're thinking more on the lines of data, on the lines of analytics, and you are very data driven, right? Because intuition is good, thumbs up to it, but what we need to make sure is the probability of your failure. If you were the marketing manager at HUL, or if you are a BCG management consultant looking at a manufacturing plant, the probability of failure goes really, really down when you are actually dealing with very precise numbers. And I'm not just talking about data analysis. These data analysis could take place in finance, could be about marketing, could be about operations, could be about technology, so on and so forth. So that's the second benefit that you could take if you are actually planning to do an MBA to actually expedite your career. Once again, I'll be referring my notebook as I always do. Third thing, which is really important about self-confidence and exposure. I think confidence is a function of experience, and what MBA does to you is it kind of creates a simulation of what the real world will look like. It is very cutthroat. There are so many presentations. There are so many, I would say, assignments that you have. It is as rigorous, if not more, than what a real world BCG consulting or a McKinsey consulting life will look like. So when you actually go through that journey, not just once, not just twice, but almost around 100 times, you bring out the best polished version of yourself. And hence you become really confident about yourself, because you're not this inhibited person who just is not comfortable doing things. You know that the only way to survive here is to raise your hand up, ask a relevant question if you have, because you're paid the bomb for it. Let's be honest about it. So that's the third way in which MBA can actually expedite your career. The fourth way, of course, has to be around network and alumni. I have always talked about this topic in much depth, and at the same time, I really value this topic, the value of network, the value of alumni. As a graduate of Indian School of Business, I have actually been able to get a lot of value for my venture, and I've gone out of my way to help a lot of my colleagues from Indian School of Business to make sure it's a win-win. People help when they come from same schools, as shitty as this may sound, but the point is, the entire 1 year of Indian School of Business kind of brings people together. You know the kind of emotion people have gone through because of the standardized process, right? I am a batch of cohort of 2019, someone who would have graduated cohort of 2010 from Indian School of Business. The experience would have largely been the same, if not different. And that kind of similarity, that kind of emotion really brings out that relationship, that potential relationship that you can build with people. So those are largely the 4 benefits that an MBA would provide you for you to actually expedite your career. So that's step number 2. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, feel free to subscribe now, because I plan to actually put out content on a daily basis on career advancement, on personal finance, and of course, a lot of productivity hacks. which brings me to my step number 3. So we have talked about a lot of the benefits, right? How can MBA help me? But a lot of rookies, a lot of, I would say, young professionals, and I've been guilty of that, I'll be extremely honest about the liabilities of an MBA degree. I did my MBA from a top business school in India, and I always tell people it's such a freaking expensive degree. Please just do not do it from any Tom, Dick and Harry institute. So because I want actually you to focus on a framework or on a grid for you to actually decide what kind of degree would you want to pursue. Imagine you have a 2x2 axis. 2x2 matrix was actually started by Bruce Henderson, who's the founder of Boston Consulting Group. So for example, on the x-axis you have benefits, right? On the right hand side you have high benefit. On the left hand side of the x-axis you have low benefit. On the y-axis, let's say you have liability, right? On the lower end of y-axis you have low liability. On the higher end of the y-axis you have high liability. So this is what your matrix look like, right? X-axis you have benefit, y-axis you have liability. On both end of the spectrum you have high and low, and hence you will be left with 4 boxes. Where would you want to be? You should almost always try to be at low liability and high benefit. I repeat, low liability and high benefit, not just low liability. That will mean that you will actually end up doing your official degree from not a good institute, and you do not get the intended benefit, right? That's just money wastage. At the same time, you will end up, you can be at Ivy League institute where you end up paying that high liability, but almost with the same benefit that you could get somewhere else with a relatively low liability. So that's the point that I definitely wanted to land you with, which brings me to my step 4, which is the bonus video that I wanted to leave you all with. So for example, at Global Governance Initiative, we run a social impact MBA, alternative MBA scholars program. Now, what is this program about? Remember the 4 benefits I talked about? Changing your sector, getting to be with really accomplished people, build your self-confidence, and actually learn business and management concepts. You actually get to legit do all 4 of them at 0.5% of the cost. I repeat, 0.5% of the cost, because we are an alternative MBA. We do not care about degrees. If you just care about degrees or a paperwork, I would actually advise you to not apply. I'll be extremely honest. For me, I started questioning degrees a lot more than I would do before. But as long as you get the benefit, then the degree is important, then the program is important, right? So that's what our program is about. And truth be told, in terms of the reviews, our people have gone on to join BCG, Parthenon, the public policy consulting firms, the product management firms such as Amazon, Uber, etc. And I'll be extremely honest, few of the GGI Impact MBA scholars, when they graduated, they said that Shatakshi, we fell in love with the MBA curriculum and the kind of ecosystem you have created, that now we want to do a legit MBA degree as well. So they kind of thought that before putting that 1.5 crore in an Ivy League degree, let me just test out if I really like this at a 0.5% cost, and if I love it, I get all the benefits. Probably I can quadruple my benefits when I do it from an Ivy League. So in fact, we have scholars who have done their MBA after their graduation from London Business School, Kellogg, Indian School of Business as well, and the list goes on. That's it from my side. That's all that I had to share in this video of how to actually build your career through an MBA, whether you can, whether you cannot. I hope you found this helpful. If you want me to create content on any new topic, feel free to put it down in the comment. If you like my videos, please put a heart or a like to it. They really are motivating for me. That's it. Please take care. Stay safe. Bye. Subscribe right now so that you get notified every time, every day, whenever I'm putting up my videos on career advancement, personal finance, and lots of productivity hacks.